Hey everyone, welcome back to our inspirational interviews. I'm Hannah Levin with Heartfelt Wellbeing, and this is Mara Robbins. Hi, Mara.
Hi, Hannah. Hi, everybody.
Yay, so glad to have you here today. So, I invited Mara to come um, talk with us, and we are going to do kind of like a hybrid conversation here. Mara is an activist and a writer and poet and phenomenal human being you will come to see. And I am so I love your perspective, Mara, and I love what you have to share from your own lived wisdom and journey and your passion for helping change happen in this lifetime for all of us. And Mara also was interested in getting some laser coaching from me. So we had a little conversation about what if we kind of bring those things together, to be able to have a conversation where you all can get the pleasure of learning from Mara, and we can also get into some coaching from me. So here we are. And Mara, I'd just like to start by asking you to introduce yourself in whatever way feels good to you to our community.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Mara. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm sitting outside today because it was just too beautiful a day to be inside. And I am here in Floyd County. You can hear one of our back roads behind me because I'm close to the road. So imperfections. And I consider Floyd County my natural habitat. We're at the very top of the Blue Ridge Plateau, and all our water flows out. This is a very clean, safe place to be as long as we keep it clean. And I have always been devoted to the water, but nearly 8 years ago, Floyd County was faced with a 42-inch frac gas pipeline trying to go through the middle. Well, the middle and then the edge, it moved 3 times. And I have been fighting it ever since. We are almost winning, and my focus has been the water. That was Floyd County's focus when it was still threatening us. And so, in the process of that, I've become project director for Thousand Flags, Thousand Waters, which you can see some of the water flags behind me. And I have written a book and published a book called Seeing Red, which is about taking care of a 61-year-old woman who lived in a tree for 34 days to keep them from cutting it down to build this 42-inch frac gas pipeline, the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which they're never going to build. And the title Seeing Red was also pulled from the concept of some people literally see red when they get really angry. And when you feel powerless in the face of what I call the petrocolonizers, you often feel it's really difficult. And so it gave me a platform to talk about things like trauma and cognitive dissonance. I've been in active trauma recovery for about 2.5 years. And my health journey with you, Hannah, was in part sparked by all that I have learned and about recovering from trauma and um, what the benefits of a daily practice are. So I'd had a daily practice, but then 2 years ago, March 22nd, you started live streaming yoga daily. I started doing 40 minutes of yoga every morning, which really changed things for me and really helped me a lot. So I'm going to stop there. So I tried to talk a little bit about what I do and what my process is. And
Yeah.
I didn't come with a prepared bio. I'll just let everybody know.
No, that's
So,
that's totally fine. Yeah, so part of what is so amazing about you is this passion that you have for the environment and what I guess we would just call activism. And where do you feel like that comes from, or where did it start, or what fuels that fire for you?
well, I would definitely credit the influence of my father, who was one of the first coordinators for Citizens for the Preservation of Floyd County back in the 1980s, fighting the 765 kV power lines, which are still the only existing energy infrastructure in Floyd County that has nothing to do with our energy needs. And they fought
Mm.
them successfully for a long time, but it was the Reagan years, and they made the case of eminent domain, and we still have these monstrous towers all over our county. Um, I was at a school that you're very familiar with, Hannah, called Arthur Morgan School. And I was studying with an amazing man named Herbie Walters, who passed away recently. You're still in my heart, Herbie. And it was really extraordinary to be a part of the larger, like, nuclear disarmament movement. We did 6 weeks on civil disobedience and social studies class, and then we all did a field trip to the Savannah River nuclear plant and watched our social studies teacher, Herbie Walters, get arrested as he blockaded the bomb plant. We couldn't participate because, I mean, I was 12, maybe 13 at that point. And I was also raised to believe that my voice mattered and that I could make a difference. And so I've always had, oh, like I mentioned
Oh.
earlier, on the tripod, and if there was a wind, sorry, everybody. Okay, I can't get it cropped again, y'all. Let me try this. Okay, that was interesting given the subject matter because it was very influential on me, and I've always taken a stand for what I believed in. But I think that the Mountain Valley Pipeline movement and the water protection movement was different for a lot of reasons, some of which I explain in my book. But it definitely felt like something I really had to fight. And
Mm,
something I've been wrestling with since I was very young is how does one fight for peace? I
mm,
consider myself a pacifist. I have practiced pacifism my whole life. I do not want to commit acts of violence. I want to alleviate suffering. I do not want to create more. That's who I am. Um, but it has become necessary for me over the course of my life to fight for my life or fight for the lives of people that I love. I've suffered a great deal of loss and traumatic loss. And so I think I come from a particular point of empathy that I'm not always exactly sure what form my activism or organizing is going to take. And sometimes it has to do with quite literally how organized I am. I feel like my disorder becomes, I suffer from complex post traumatic stress disorder. So sometimes my head gets disordered too, and it's a matter of sorting that out. And a lot of times it's creating art and then kind of figuring out where it fits. Um, like right now, we're still fighting the pipeline. We're also dealing with a war that is the first time I've felt afraid of nuclear weapons for a long time. And it was a fear that I grew up with and that really seeded a lot of that early environmental activism. And I'm allergic to injustice, Hannah. I just have always had this allergy to injustice, and anger as a natural response to injustice needs somewhere to go. And
yeah.
so that's a long answer to that question, but I think it's honest.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, and there's so many pieces in there that I would love to pull out more of. And I do want to just acknowledge, like, I also went to the Arthur Morgan School. I was there
Mhm.
91 through 93. When were you there? In
I was
80s.
there 83 through 86.
Okay.
Um, so like
Yeah.
I read 1984 in ninth grade English class in 1984, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's been surreal to me recently.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
right
bet.
before that, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll go back to the reunion this summer. I hope it'd
Right.
be.
Yeah. Yeah, so Arthur Morgan School is a Quaker-based junior high school, grade 7, 8, and 9 in rural Western North Carolina. And it really is focused on helping young people see that they can make a difference in the world. From
Mhm.
learning like gardening skills and how to cook and chop wood to
Yep.
going out into the world and doing service or standing up for peace. And
Yep.
I think I look at what we both have. coming from that education in very formative years, I feel like I definitely resonate with like being allergic to injustice or wanting to make it, or knowing that my life can make a change in the
Yeah.
world, can make a difference, and that's how I have arrived at the work that I do, is that I want to alleviate unnecessary suffering in the world. And how I have found the avenue to do that is through yoga and Ayurveda. For you, it's been more through activism and art and writing. And oh, we're losing you again.
No, it's just isn't. I try.
Uh-oh, now you muted yourself. Can you, can I unmute you? There we go.
All
Okay,
right.
we're
Time's the
good.
charm. Let's stay here.
So
Okay.
yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more from you just about what you're seeing. I mean, it is so challenging right now to see what's happening, to hear what's happening in Ukraine in light of other times in history, and the ways in which you have participated in activism. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I'm just going to
Yes.
hold it
Okay,
because
just hold
obviously
it.
my topic didn't work.
Okay.
I was listening.
Yes. Um, so yeah, I just love to hear you talk about like what's happening now, how we make sense of that in light of, or your ideas. I don't want to put a ton of pressure on you for that. And I know that there's this weaving unity um, that you're a part of in Roanoke that's coming up for folks nearby. And you had also mentioned this concept of outrage fatigue, like when we get to the point of just being exhausted by being so frustrated with the injustice and hatred and challenge that is in the world.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But
That is a lot. Well, let's start with Weaving Unity because that was a project I helped with last fall. My dear friend Polly Branch, who is a visionary artist in collaboration with Community Arts Reach, launched this outdoor interactive sculpture where we wove a wave and other designs into a fence around a baseball diamond. So now it's baseball season and we need to take it down. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to once again glean community participation for the unraveling, the unwinding of this community project that was intended to create unity. And Jane Gabrielle, who is another artist who's working, there's a lot of different people who collaborated on this, is calling it the peace wave, which I love, which makes me think of the peace train. And I, kind of rewrote the lyrics a little bit. So it says riding on the peace wave instead of the peace train. And we thought it's a good opportunity. Like I'm wearing blue and yellow right now in solidarity with Ukraine. And we have sunflower seeds and sunflower designs for you to put on your pockets or to take a little pouch of sunflower seeds, because I feel like that is a really strong narrative for peace. For those of you who don't know, there was a real fierce Ukrainian old lady, like an old woman crone, who got in the face of Russian soldiers and told them to get out of her country, get out, like you fascists, go home. And the soldier was trying to talk her down, and she was like, "You just need to put sunflower seeds in your pockets, so when you lie down, something will grow." And so it's really a fierce statement, and he kind of backed down, but everyone has, a lot of people all over the world have taken up the sunflower as this potent symbol of peace, of the unity of those of us who don't understand why we're still fighting wars. War has never made sense to me. I wasn't raised to believe in war, but it doesn't matter. If I believe in it, it's still happening. So how can we fight for peace? How can we unravel and unwind those things that we no longer want to see, and in the meantime take pieces of the sculpture and distribute them to different fences all over the region so that we can create new art and creativity and community participation. Because ultimately, that sense of belonging, that sense of being part of something bigger than ourselves, having people we can lean on who have our back, like that, that is healing. That is ultimately what we want in the face of what we don't want. So this project applies to almost everything. We'll be out there from 2 to about 7 tomorrow. And at sunset and moonrise, we're going to have a drum circle, a circle of sharing, and collaborate on ways we can support the Ukrainian people and let everybody know that peace is possible, that we can't win a nuclear war. I've been saying that since I was 12. And
Mhm.
so that's going to be wonderful, but it's also the kind of thing that leaves me very, very tired and in need of yoga the next
Yeah.
day. I have to remember my acronyms that I use to remind myself to engage in self-care, that the pace of building towards something can't really be sustained. So
Yeah.
that's where I need coaching. That's where
Hmm.
I advice from people who are more grounded and objective maybe than I am in the midst of a creative outpouring, especially who reminds me how long to hold my breath or whether or not to stick my fingers in my ears. Like that's as somebody who has triggers in my PTSD, dealing with those plus remembering how to maintain my nervous system stability. It sometimes my head and heart and body don't work together in the way that I would prefer them to. So I need a lot of methods to remember so I have a well-stocked tool belt. And that was what I was hoping that you might have some advice on, both for me and for a lot of my friends who are
Yeah.
worn down, who are outrage fatigue, refers to that point like compassion fatigue, when you care and you love someone or you care deeply about something that's happening, but that you just don't have the energy left to maintain it. There's too many things to be concerned about, too many things to be scared of. We're looking at World War III in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's just um, it's a matter of taking action in the face of grief and living through what I like the word apocalypse because it doesn't mean what I thought it meant for a long time growing up. The literal root word is like the uncovering of things. And I've been saying for the last 2 years about that we're dealing with multiple apocalypti. I don't really know if apocalypse is supposed to be pluralized, but that seems like the best way to pluralize it. So it's like there are wars, there are pandemics, there are brand new spiders falling from the sky. I mean, you can't make this up. And yet we're still living and trying to live beyond surviving. I'm good at being in survival mode. I'm good at getting through whatever it is. What I want to work towards is thriving. And that's one of the many tools you've given me over the 2 years we've known each other.
Mm.
So I tried to segue us into coaching mode here. Did I do a good job?
Yeah, that's great. Good job.
Good.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Yeah. And and yeah, I just want to acknowledge that there's like the conversations that we choose to participate in are what help inform our beliefs and our vision and our ability to take what we could call right action
Mm,
in our lives. And so I just want to thank you for being willing to have this conversation today. And yes, let's go into some coaching. And I just want to say, like, there are so many different conversations happening in the world, and and even in any local community of what is true or what is real concerning pandemic, concerning war, concerning our own health and well-being. And I just think it's really, really crucial that we come back to we are our survival and thrival is inherently linked to each other's and inherently linked to this earth. And while we exist in a capitalist society that wants us to be out for ourselves, and there's so many decisions, unfortunate decisions that are made based on making money and nothing else, that we can choose to participate in a different conversation. And I just really want to thank you for the work that you do to have those conversations and to speak for the rights when there's not a voice of the water that we can all hear. There's not a voice for the earth. There's not a voice for the trees, that you're willing to do that. And that it does create fatigue. It does separate you at times from feeling like you can go beyond surviving to be able to thrive. And that you're seeking the ability to thrive is inherent in all of us thriving, right? You can't be a sacrificial human. We need you too to thrive, for everybody to thrive. So do you want to say anything about that before we look at thrive?
um, I think when I was reviewing the acronym, because I've been using it for a while now, I did your One Habit to Thrive workshop some time ago and really latched onto the thrive part. And the R stands
So let's
for
look at that. Yeah.
remove stuck stories. Yeah, I think if I don't go into thrive, there's too many things you gave me to respond to. I will say thank you. Thank you for seeing that and acknowledging that. And I'm working on getting better at receiving praise. So thank you.
Good
And
job.
the removing stuck stories part, the R part, is something that I knew I needed to do. And I knew that I had stuck stories, and I knew some of the stories that were stuck, but it's something that I had to remind myself of and explore for a really long time before I kind of noticed it happening recently. I thought,
Mm,
oh, okay, here's one way. Like, here was the way. And I couldn't really know that before it happened.
mm,
But that was one of the things that I still feel like I need to do some of that in order to thrive.
mm.
It's
Yeah,
hard. It's hard
all
to
of us.
unstick trauma stories. The ones
Yeah,
that you don't have to try to remember, the ones that are. So I think that's part of the work too.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, there's so many, so many pieces to explore with that. And trauma. I mean, I love the work of Gabor Mate. You probably know his work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
around trauma. And really what I feel like he is doing such a great job of helping us understand is that trauma isn't just what happened to you. It is how you internalize that experience and ultimately what you make it mean in terms of your life going forward. And that's how it continues to live on and have a negative impact in people. It and I'm not saying that to say like, oh, just like it's so simple, just change, what you make it mean. But that stuck story piece allows us to look at how am I actually telling this story or ruminating on this story to myself, and what is a different way to tell this story. And we recently had an interview with Tammy Magnuson
Mm.
about memory, and I think
Yep.
you listened to that. And so that empowers us to to be in the story. And it goes back to what I was saying before, like to be in the conversations, to have the conversations. And as one of my favorite writers, David White, says, to allow the conversations that we have to change us, so
Mm-hmm.
that we don't enter into the conversations that we have with other people and with ourselves with some sort of agenda or thinking, what am I going to say next? But that we truly listen with the ear of our hearts and respond instead of react, from a place where we're not in the stuck story, but we're in a place of, what can I learn? How can I shift from this experience? And if we look at this acronym and we go from that place of stuck stories and then inserting gratitude, if we show up to the experiences of saying, and what are you here to teach me? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that this has shown up. I'm grateful this story has shown up today. I'm grateful that this challenging experience has shown up today. This is very resonant with me right now. For I'm going through something right now, which is totally calling me into this of like, okay, I have these stories. How can I show up to what is presenting itself in my life and insert gratitude? I'm grateful for even the unknowns of where I am. And how can I be grateful for what I'm steering my life towards, which is to be in integrity with alleviating unnecessary suffering, to connect with people,
Mm-hmm.
and to view everything that shows up as an invitation to grow. And whoo, is that hard work? It is not simple, passive anything. It
No,
is
there's growing pains.
showing up. Yes,
Yeah, for
yes.
sure. And yet I find myself unwilling to pursue relationships with people who are not in a growth mindset, who are not interested
Yeah.
in growing, who are not showing up at the table saying, we can learn from each other and practicing. I mean, sometimes what you're talking about, I see as radical gratitude. It's
Mm,
um, it's it's easy to be grateful for the things you've got. It takes guts to be grateful for the things you've lost. That's a
mm,
lyric from Cloud Cult that I find illustrates that pretty well. But practicing things like radical acceptance alongside that radical gratitude can sometimes help, because there's things we can change and things we can't. And so
yeah.
that, yeah, that grows. And what is the E? I can't see the E in Thrive.
Oh, it's evolve in faith. It cut
Evolve
it
in
off,
faith.
didn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Does that,
I just
did I just move it up? Okay.
you
Okay,
did.
fine.
You could see it now. And I think that the contrast of the evolution and being willing to grow and evolve and change, and also the practice of faith, which is different than hope. You know, there have been a lot of
Mm,
times that I've had to lean on faith over the last few years in a way that I like the concept of hope as a discipline. Faith
mm,
is different. It involves something maybe more mysterious, I guess, but
mm.
it's been very useful for me. This acronym is one of my favorites, along with PRN, which stands for Pause, Reset, Nourish. And it's only 3 letters. I need to do it a lot over the course of a
Yeah.
day. So,
Yeah. It's, yeah, powerful. Great. So did you receive what you needed to, and or were hoping to receive today in terms of some
yeah.
coaching?
Yes, I feel, I celebrate Validation Day instead of Valentine's Day because I think we all need it, either from others or from ourselves, self-validation.
Mm,
And it's really good to get to talk with you about some of the practices that have helped. Oh, I wanted to mention Brahmari breath. We only have a few seconds left if you want to. show anybody, but that's something I learned from Hannah that has been very, very grounding for me. And I think I saw it in a coaching session at one point a long time ago. I don't remember when you introduced it, but
Yeah.
it's a I've taken on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so let's do it. We'll go a couple minutes over to do some Brahmari breath. And so Brahmari means bumblebee in Sanskrit, and this is a sensory deprivation experience. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, and we need to, this is one of the things I love about Ayurveda is understanding and honoring all that our senses do for us. Our
Mhm.
senses are
Absolutely.
working all the time, and we can nourish them and we can overtax them. And a lot of us
Mhm.
have, what was it, outrage fatigue. I think a lot of our senses have outrage fatigue. We're listening to too many things that are too loud and just taking all these things. We're visually taking things in. We're eating too many things and different tastes and textures and complex things, chemicals.
Not to
And
mention
we
this right here, that all the technology. Um, um,
Exactly,
yep.
exactly. Yeah. So as we live in our modern lives and we can zoom out a little bit and just see like, wow, we're asking a lot of our nervous systems too, like our senses. Yeah, zoom out. Our nervous systems have um, a lot that they have to say to us, and we see them as inconvenient, which is a shame
Mhm.
instead of communication. So when we can do these nervous system calming practices, it's medicine. We don't need to take pills necessarily. We can also heal with breath, with food, with um, our attention, where we're putting all of these things. So Brahmari breath, we're going to take our hands, fingers together, and place them over the eyes with the elbows out to the sides. And then with your thumbs, in just a moment, you're going to close your ears. Push on the flaps of your ears and close up your ears. And the way Brahmari works is we take a deep inhale in through the nose and then hum with the exhale. And that humming, and the lower the tone, the more grounding it is, that humming creates a vibration in the body that helps move out held chemistry, tension, stagnation, that calms the nervous system. So let's try it. Let's just do 3 Brahmari breaths all together. You can, um, just take your time, deep breaths, and hum as low as you can with the exhale, pressing in on the ears. See you in a little bit. And when you're finished, you can just sit for a moment with your eyes closed and just take a deep breath and just notice, wow, the nervous system is so much calmer. So we
That,
all,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
go ahead,
interrupt.
go ahead.
That plus sitting next to a creek, there's a little stream
Mm,
behind me. This is the most grounding thing I can do for myself. And adding a tool like the Brahmari breath, which was performative for me because I can't hold my phone and use both hands. Um, I'll prepare better next time. Maybe that's what you can coach me on.
Well, just keep doing it. You'll find your rhythm with it, and it's really powerful. I used to teach it. When I taught high school, I used to be a high school art teacher, and I used to teach this to my students when they'd have test anxiety or just feel overwhelmed in teenage angst. But we really all can use this in our time right now. There's a lot of chaos, and chaos, if we think of it as potential energy that we can bring into working to, it's like, yes, anger is this idea of seeing red, right? We can harness the energy of what feels really challenging to us. And if we have the skill, the awareness to, focus where that energy goes, we can be incredibly powerful towards
Mm.
healing and not distracting. So I thank you, Mara, for the work that you do in this world to help us all move towards healing. And I honor your own personal healing path as well. You're doing the work that benefits the greater whole. And it's so important. So thanks for being here with us today and
Thank
sharing
you,
some
Mara.
of your life and light with us.
Thank you for all the yoga and for
Yeah,
Thrive.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it continues to benefit you and others. We'll see you soon.
Water is
Bye.
life. Bye.